Since February 2018, the crack team consisting of an old hipster, a rookie, and Tyrod Taylor's biggest fan record from a secret location in the heart of Scotland. Their aim is to try and dissect all things NFL. If you want their opinion, and if you can find them, this is the American Fitbaw Cast.
From a top secret location again, the American Fitbaw Cast reconvenes, full house, episode 21. I am your lead host today, Gavin Miller. I'll be in control of everything we talk about, so expect plenty of Tyrod Taylor, expect plenty of unnecessary comments and conversations.
That's about 50% of what we do, isn't it?
Yeah, no. Yes. But here with me as ever, I have two complete dicks. No fancy introductions today. So I will start with Andrew. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Yourself, you fucking penis.
It's a nice family show.
Mark that straight up explicit
Yeah.
within the first minute.
Hey, you let me lead, okay? It's your fault. Steve, how's things with you?
Pretty good, yeah.
You've got a real voice today. That's all.
I know, I'm not dying, yeah, and I didn't have to mess up an intro like last week, so that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Do we still have that outtake? It got deleted, didn't it?
It got deleted straight away.
That's fine.
I think one thing we do
In the
have
bin.
to possibly apologise for is the quality of our audio over the last couple of weeks.
We've been trying a few things out.
experimenting with a few things in terms of our equipment.
Yeah.
We still are.
Yeah,
but
so we've gone back to tried and tested what you've had from episodes 12 through
Yeah.
18 or something.
Yeah.
So, Kev, because you're always right on the ball and keep us informed, thanks very much.
Hopefully we don't sound like we're underwater this week.
Yeah. So yeah, this should be an improvement, hopefully. But last week we spoke about our thoughts around who the best offensive players were, some honourable mentions, some people that have disappointed. We spoke on the offensive side of the ball. So in a intergalactic episode segue, we are now going to move over to the defensive side. Of
Intergalactic
Just
episode
accept-
segue.
just
This is like how big can I make my segues?
this
Just make
is
them sound more impressive every time.
yeah. I watched Inception last night. I think that's where my brain's
Still never seen
inside a
that film.
segue inside
Oh my
a segue.
God.
Still
What?
never seen it.
Oh my
It's
god.
like a segue inside a segue.
That's the best way to
I
describe it.
bought that film on DVD and then sold it before I ever watched it.
You need to watch it. It's so good. It's
I
so
wonder if
good.
any players have had that. They've been traded and then traded away without even.
Playing a game.
Yeah.
Don't get
That'll
caught.
have happened a lot.
AJ
of the time.
McCarron. He
There you
did. He
go.
never played a game for the Bills. And
I
he was at the
know,
Raiders.
okay. I think he played some pre-season, but
Did
yeah.
he? Does that even count?
We all know pre-season doesn't count anyway. It's pointless.
Yeah. Okay. So to our player praising, I suppose. So on the defensive side of the ball, I thought we would start with defensive line. Those big dudes up front. Who do we like? Who do we not like? Who do we want to shout out to? Steve. Okay. You can go first because I put you on the
Well,
spot.
individuals, or you mean the line?
Just
as
talk
a
to me.
whole?
Talk to me, bro.
Okay, right. Well, let's go for who a lot of people's early pick of the season of Defensive Player of the Year would have been, who didn't get off to the fastest of starts statistically, but has absolutely turned it on the last couple of weeks, and that is none other than Aaron Donald,
Oh my god.
who looks like he is now well on his way to back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year award. He'd be the only third person ever to do that, behind JJ Watt, my guy, and the great LT.
So yeah, I've seen Aaron Donald 10 sacks on the season, leading the way.
6 just in the last 2 weeks, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was already topping like quarterback pressures after about the first 4 weeks or so. But that's a stat. That's one of these weird stats that you'll get on like Pro Football Focus, and they'll tell you on the broadcast, but you never get to see it in black and white anywhere. It's one of these weird ones that's difficult to quantify. And that's how many times he's been able to push through. So he might not got the sack at the end of it, but he was constantly disrupting opposing offensive lines in the
He
first
didn't get a
few weeks.
sack till week 3.
Yeah, already on 10.
I wonder, it's just
On track for 20, which is just a hell of a milestone.
just on the slow start, I wonder how much of that was down to having to play with Indomitian Sue, different people in the in the defensive lineup? Does that take a little bit of time to gel, regardless of how good you are?
I don't know, because last year, a lot of people thought because he had the off season off last year, he was gonna get off to a slow start yet again, and he's one of these rare people that seems to defy that. It doesn't matter whether he reports to the team or not for pre-season. He's pretty good to go by week one, generally speaking. And yeah, he hasn't got anything flashy in the first couple of weeks, but he was still right up there in the mix for defensive player of the year, even after week 2 or 3.
And just to add to Aaron Donald, one little note I put on him, because I did have Aaron Donald there as well. So he frees up how strong he is. He frees up space for Michael Brockers, who's got 8 sacks this season. The Rams were the only team to have 2 defensive ends in the top 20, I think it was. So for sacks, that is. And then Dominican Sue as well. So you can't stop all these people. You can't. There's no way. As good as your offensive line is, you can't stop all of them. So yeah, I think Aaron Donald is absolutely one of the best guys in that position. I suppose the full defensive line. I was going to mention Donald specifically for defensive end, but that sort of covered both.
I think the Rams front four, before what we'll talk about in our trade segment later on, was already right up there.
Yeah.
They've only gone and bloody improved it, haven't they?
Yeah. For defensive line, I actually looked at the Seahawks, who don't seem to be getting a whole lot of love right now. So I thought I'd give them an honourable mention, and the reason for that is Frank Clark and Jaron Reed, who was a first rounder last year, I think. They are both in the top 20 as well for defensive linemen. Frank Clark and Jaron Reed. Frank Clark's got 6.5 sacks, and Jaron Reed's got 4 sacks. So yeah, both those guys are looking
to the top 40.
What's that? Sorry,
top 40. Top 20 takes us down to down to 5 sacks.
Sorry, it was like that was for their overall performance. So yeah,
cool.
It wasn't just sacks specifically. When I think I looked on the ESPN site. Maybe I should have used the NFL site, but
you get slightly different. We had this discussion prior to coming on air. We were sort of thinking, right, well, how are we actually going to rank these people? Because you can pull out one stat on its own and it re-ranks everyone depending on whatever.
There are so many
really
stats.
Bizarre, yeah.
Well, to be honest, there are so many stats on either side of the ball, but you can measure a defensive unit by so many different.
Yeah.
And it is just mad.
Yeah. Anything else we want to speak about from the defensive line? We've sort of covered defensive end there as well. Aaron Donald, did you have anyone different, Andrew, that you wanted to mention?
There's a lot of people there. I mean, I'm going to show bias because I have to. And
you're going to say Chandler Jones, are you?
I am, because 6.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, one of them recovered. And I think overall, actually, the Cardinals' defense has been okay, but there's been a few star performers in there, and Chandler Jones has been one of them.
I was looking at that, and I was a little bit surprised when I seen some people as high as they were, but then it got me thinking, are their numbers inflated because their offense can't stay on the field?
Now, this is the old fun and games problem. So, statistically, who is your highest performing defensive players in a lot of categories? It's because you're on arguably not good teams.
Yeah.
Your defense is on the field
and
far
that's
more.
where
When you get right into the intricacies of it, it's like how many impacts there's people that work this stuff out, and you sometimes read it in articles, and I love these articles because you can get right into they've actually done a pressure on 10% of their snaps or something. If you do it per snap count, that's where you get right into the proper how you can rank people against each other. And I know a lot of the headline numbers won't give you that. So I mean, if you go into just any defensive back, well, your 2 Arizona boys are sitting 1 and 2 in terms of total tackles. Buddy Baker and Antoine Bethea. They're sitting 1 and 2. They are comfortably in front. They've had to be on the field a shit lot more than a lot of other people, though. So they're getting way more opportunities to get tackles, and because they just can't stop a drive and get a team off field in 3rd down.
So
but anyway,
Baker's got 72 tackles and Bethea's got 67.
Yeah.
The next safety is Landon Collins of the Giants with 62.
Another bad offense.
And then Jesse Bates from the Bengals with 60.
Yeah.
So he's maybe someone that is performing at a higher level.
Yes,
The Bengals will
because
be...
Bengals are doing okay, but actually, what production he's getting, not just on tackles, but actually overall.
He's got a couple of picks as well.
Look at the rest of the stat line. Yeah, I don't have it right in front. You got it right in front of you there. A couple of picks, passes defended is decent numbers as well. He's got fumbles
and
as well. I think
he was
kind of done everything.
So Bates, no fumbles. He's got 3 interceptions, 4 passes defended.
Yeah, so I'm sure he was a 3rd round pick this year.
Are you on ESPN?
Yes.
Oh, right. NFL says 7 passes defended, so right, we don't even
So-
have the same bloody numbers.
So does that take the interceptions into that number?
Maybe.
3 interceptions. What did you say? You had 4.
And 4.
So
So
that
that would
Oh,
be
so the
to add
3
together
plus
would
the
be
4 is
7.
7 then. So it's
Yeah.
the combined total.
Yeah, I think if I remember rightly, Jesse Bates. So he was drafted. I think he was a 3rd round. I'm sure he's from a really weird college like Forest Wake or somewhere like that that's had nobody ever. And yeah, I'm sure that
Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I just got it the wrong way around. But yeah, you were close.
Like the Packers with Green Bay.
because I took quite a lot. Yeah, it's my James Bond moment. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, so this year when I tried to, the last couple of years, I've tried to pay a lot of attention to the drafts, and I remember reading about Jesse Bates, and actually there was a lot of people who were saying if he was at a better college, he could have gone in the first round. But the name that goes against it sort of played him down. So yeah, it looks like he's living up to the potential 1st round hype. So we've sort of went on to DBs there, defensive backs. Is there anyone else that we want to speak about? I've got mine, so I don't mind going first. The player that I'm most impressed with this year is DJ Swearinger from
I
the
knew
Redskins.
you were going to say
You were
that.
going
Only
to
because
say
of
that.
these 2 interceptions.
Oh,
Take out last week and these 2 interceptions. He's been on your radar before that.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. He's become an absolute leader for our botched, broken secondary, and he's really stepped up to the plate. And there was the game against the Cowboys that I watched where he's an absolute leader. He rallies. He was going over to Josh Norman, who most people would think that, you know, would be our guy, and he was going over to him and he was telling him to, you know, screw the nut and stay focused and all that sort of stuff, and he celebrates every touchdown like he scored it. So I've got a real sort of loving for DJ Swearinger right now, and actually something that I can't wait to talk about later as well. So Swearinger's the leader in interceptions, but someone that's been added to the Redskins isn't doing too bad either.
Just behind him.
Yeah. So yeah, Swearinger's also got 1 sack for a free safety who they don't get to blitz that often. So for him to get that sack is pretty good as well. So yeah, quite happy with him. Anyone else that we want to talk about?
2 of the rookies, I want to just throw the names out because I think both have contributed to their teams way more than what you probably would have thought by this point of year 1 of the season, and that is Denzel Ward and the Browns, who, I mean, I didn't even know, actually quantify until this morning that the Browns are the league leader in defensive takeaways, which is unreal to think of, but his picks and what he's done is part of that. Derwin James at the Chargers as well is balling. Nothing short of balling really is the simple way.
I've got here for the Browns to give them an honourable mention. They've got the 3rd best passing completion rated, so it's weird the way that this is worded, but only 59.49% of passes make it against the Browns secondary.
So they're holding the quarterback down really well.
Yep. Yeah. And to put it into to quantify it a bit more, the Bucks are sitting at 73.68%. So
that's a hell of a swing.
So you're going to get 2 in 10 more passes in the hands playing the Bucks than you are playing the Browns.
It's crazy, isn't it? And like you said, so Denzel Ward. In fact,
it's a
even
huge part of that. Yeah.
When you look at their when they drafted him, loads of people were losing their nut that they drafted Denzel Ward, and that, in fact, I think a lot of people lost their nut with the Browns draft in general when they drafted Mayfield at 1 and then Ward at 4.
Yeah.
I think everyone was like,
because everyone wanted Barkley and Chubb. I think 1 and 4 was the kind of the sexy picks.
But they've got a really young defensive team as well. So you've got Garrett, and I can never say this guy's name, but Ogunjobi,
I
Justin
know who you're
Scho-
talking about, but I don't know.
Justin Schober.
Hogan Joby sounds like some
Hogan Joby.
weird
A
Scottish
hoagie rap,
insult.
and then a jobby after it.
Yeah.
He's a Hogan Joby.
Oh my god. Dear me.
The Hogan
Right,
Joby
Hogan
episode.
Joby, you are.
Sounds like a Star Wars character.
Obi-Wan Joby.
Hogan Joby and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I thought the Browns deserved a mention, and I think we'll speak about the Browns in a bit as well, but a massive part of that, again, is down to Greg Williams. I'm a big fan of the way that he plays his teams, so they're super aggressive, and I think that's suiting the way the Browns are playing.
Ward is the league leader in sort of the whole combined pass defence and interception total at 12.
That's
so
awesome.
That's bloody good for your
That's
first, 8 games?
Yeah, that's not too bad.
That's amazing.
And again, we spoke about it earlier in the group chat about how tough their division is. So you've got the Bengals,
Yeah,
the
out of
Ravens.
the AFC, if you put them in a different division, they will do better than the one they're in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
South looks like a one-horse race now. The way teams are are going. You're getting 2 out of the AFC West, and it's the Chiefs and the Chargers. Looks
Yeah,
like,
so
the other
that
two are
looks as
struggling.
tough as the
Yeah,
division does.
yeah. But I don't see Denver or Oakland being anywhere, but certainly not Oakland anyway, but I don't even see Denver being anywhere near the wild card hunt.
No.
But for the Browns, if they, if 2 of those overtimes had gone the other way, they would have been right in the thick of it. They would have been equal on wins with Pittsburgh and the Ravens, and one behind the Bengals. They're
Fine
two
margins, isn't it?
2 field goals away from all those teams in the division having 500 plus records. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
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 Anything else we want to add on cornerback, secondary people? We're all good? Ready to move on? So, one thing that is also ridiculous, and I'm going to move to linebacker, and the one thing that I think is ridiculous is Kiko Alonso's short shirts that he wears in games. Have you seen these? He wears like a small jersey, and it's like his belly's on show. See if you can bring it up. It's just ridiculous. There's absolutely no need.
He is. I'm surprised he's not getting fined every week by the NFL for what he wears.
I mean, you
NFL
can
are
just see it.
notorious for being real sticky. Who's my boy? I tagged you in a thing on Facebook of him. Chad Ochocinco. That's it. Chad Johnson, as he was, changed his name to Ochocinco because he wore number 85. This boy got fined nearly weekly for wearing gold cleats when he wasn't allowed to, or sitting on the sideline. He was putting on a Hall of Fame jacket after scoring a touchdown and putting a fake cigar in his mouth, and the NFL would fine him for that because he's just breaching every protocol under the sun. You'd think
Alonso is wearing the required uniform. He's just wearing a size
very
too small.
short.
It's so
That's not in the
ridiculous.
rules.
Someone get him the right size shirt.
It's so ridiculous. Like, I literally, every time I see him, I'm like, that can't be comfortable. There's
Streamlined.
yeah.
No one can hold on to him. And that's what it
it
is. That's why it's so tight, is because then no one can hold on to him.
Yeah, maybe.
Can't grab his shirt.
So Kiko Alonso, a couple of things that I thought that made him stand out for me was, I think, was it number 2 overall?
in tackles, yep.
Yep. So 76 tackles this year, 3 fumbles. He is in a really, really bad team in the Dolphins. They're outperforming the record, and I think he's a big part of it. He's got a couple of interceptions, so most linebackers normally are just smaller defensive ends, whereas he looks like he's been able to do a bit of both, and that sort of hybrid linebacker. He was the Rookie of the Year in 2014 on the defensive side, so I feel like he's now starting to live up to...
He was drafted by the Bills.
He was drafted by the
originally, and
Bills.
then traded to the Eagles as part of the Shady McCoy deal, eh?
Yep.
And then went down to Miami, yeah.
Yeah, and he went to the Eagles with Chip Kelly, who then traded him away. And he's looking like he's doing pretty good this year, so I thought he deserved a shout out. And I also like his name. I don't know why. Sounds like a footballer, like an actual soccer player. If we were American,
You like anyone with a weird name.
Yeah,
That's
big fan.
half your rating on whether a
Yeah.
player's cool or not is how cool is your name.
Kiko Alonso.
And on the name factor, do you have the guy with a similar name to you in this discussion?
Oh, Oh, Gavon Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's having another good year as well. I think he's got like 8 sacks or something as well, isn't he?
He does
Yes.
have 8 exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's still doing his thing.
Very under the radar though, I would have said. I don't
He's just
think
not-
he's quite had, probably because the Broncos have almost taken a step back, and that their division, the Chargers and the Chiefs are kind of taking a lot of the headlines. He is a good player in a good defense on a team that's so, and he's just not getting a lot of national love. But
Yeah.
I mean, on track for 16 sacks in a season, which is nonsense, really. I mean, if you're averaging one a game, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else we want to give an honourable mention to?
Going back to the rookies, for the third of my 3 rookies is none other than Darius Leonard
Oh my God.
at Indianapolis. He is throwing out some crazy numbers as well. So he's
incredible.
got 88 tackles. Again, it's possibly the whole problem of being in a team that defensively you struggle a lot. But 4 sacks, 3 fumbles. He's doing all right, like for the weekend.
Was it 88?
88.
Oh my God.
He's sitting on already halfway through the season.
That's
averaging
incredible.
averaging 11 in a
And
game.
he was at second
Oh,
ranked.
wait a minute, did he have the bye week? I'm trying to think.
Don't think so.
No, okay. So you're averaging 11 a game. I mean that's
And in
record.
fact, no, he
level
was out
pace.
for a game as well. He was definitely.
Oh, he
for at
was
least
right.
one. At
Oh,
least
God,
one.
I think he's on course for a record amount of tackles this season.
And he
or
was-
something
He's
anyway.
12 ahead of second place, who is Kiko Alonso,
Mm.
who has 76 tackles.
So he's a whole game in front already. He can have another game off and still probably.
Yeah,
be
that's
top.
crazy. Actually, I forgot that he was actually injured for
Yeah.
a game.
So he could have been over 100.
And also, if he was injured and missed a game, there's a high possibility that he played games injured as well.
yeah, and wasn't quite 100%.
So wow, that's
But,
incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like.
And yeah, second or third round, I'm sure he was. And again, just on the draft, the Colts look like they've had a good draft. The guys that they've all picked up seem to be doing their bit.
Might take them a year to mould them. I think there's. I don't want to say the rookie wall as such, but they just haven't. All of them haven't come in and absolutely blown it out of the park. But that what they're doing is solid enough that they're easy starters on most of the teams in the league anyway for their respective positions. So.
And they look like they've fixed the issue of keeping Andrew Luck upright. He's not had a sack in over 3 games now. So
Yeah, statistically, he's had his best completion rate so far.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going his way as well, which is the thing we missed on. Did we talk about comeback player of the year?
I was about to bring this
previously?
very thing up.
Yeah,
So we have touched on sort of.
Let's go
Let's
back to episode 3. We were talking about bold predictions for the season, and Andrew threw out this absolute gem. Please regale us with the tale for those who have not listened to episode 3 of who you suggested at this point.
What I told you would happen is that earlier in the season, maybe even in pre-season, there would be a team's star running back would go down. Step forward, the man that wears high heels, Darius Geis. He might not actually wear high heels. But
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
that was another episode throwback there for you.
I can't even remember how that came about.
What I said...
You're talking about somebody being.
Oh no, it was a drama queen, wasn't it?
It was a drama queen, so we said, he wears high heels. But anyway. So what I said would happen once a team's star running back would go down is that they would dip into the free agency market and they would pick up all day Adrian Peterson, and he would ball out and he would be comeback player of the year.
Cue utter hilarity from me, as if to say, really? You're going for him for comeback player of the year? Well, did I not have to eat my words for about the last 8 weeks? Every week going, by Christ, he's actually going to do it.
I think I remember as well when Geis goes down. I'm like, oh shit! There we go. That was the guy that we thought we had as our.
You were gutted.
And
before
then,
the season had started.
and then I seen
Week
that we
one,
signed
right?
Peterson, and I was like, fuck. We may as well having me.
Because there was
And here's
questions-
me going, it's happening!
there was questions after last season whether he'd hit the wall, and he
Yeah.
was done because he got
He
bounced
runs
around
like an old man.
Cards and Saints.
He was Saints and then was
Yeah.
traded across to
Yeah, Saints then
Cards.
Cards. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he was underwhelming to say the least.
Yeah.
For us. Yeah.
I think obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing. We've gone a little bit off topic, but
That's off topic.
I know,
Never.
who knew? Saints, he was up against Kamara and Ingram. There was no room for him.
There was, and they were doing this whole committee thing, and it just wasn't working out, and they needed him out of there for them to be better as well.
Yeah, and then he goes to the Cards, were a team that wasn't playing too well and didn't have a great offensive line.
I think not having a great offensive line is being generous to the Cardinals.
I know.
Johnson was out because
Johnson was out week one.
Anyway, so AP had the chance to go in as a de facto number one, but just it was really streaky. I think he got 2 good games at 100 yards, but then in between you were getting 20s and 30s.
Yeah, I mean there was one game where he had a ludicrous amount of carries, but it was all for like 2 yards of time.
So just getting nothing.
Whereas he's gone to the Redskins that have a good offensive line.
Yep.
So they can give him the time to do what he needs to do, because he's a one-cut go.
And with Smith and your wide receiver core, that keeps the defence a bit more honest, because you can't gear up against him, because you're going to leave your back way too exposed.
Yep.
And he tied an NFL all-time record at the weekend there, didn't he? So he tied the record for rushing touchdowns of more than 50 yards. So he has 15 of them now.
It was a good stat.
And he tied Barry Sanders is the only other man to be up there.
The only question I threw out was, do you think he'll break it this season? I think the way he's going, I think there's a chance.
We've got 50 the Bucks in 2
yards
weeks' time, so
runs.
there's every chance.
He's got
50 yards plus runs are
games
pure luck kind of thing.
We don't have the worst schedule. I think our next 3 games are all winnable.
Well, you just look in your own division. I mean, Eagles might have got it together, but you could argue that they're certainly not the force they were last year. And then you've got Giants and Cowboys.
Yeah,
fun games right there.
So I think our schedule's not that bad. So he could. So we went from defensive. This just shows how bad we are at everything we do. We went from talking about defensive players to Adrian Peterson breaking records.
Yeah.
No segue required.
The other thing I did say was that he would get up to 110 career touchdowns. So he required 11 this season, and you've had your bye week, so he's through 7 games and he's had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah,
he's on course to get to that 110.
So this
as well.
utterly ridiculous prediction you threw back in about March time is coming to fruition. However, getting back to the point that actually took us down this journey, the obvious problem being that we had totally forgotten that because Andrew Luck was injured all of last season,
what we're talking about,
which is how we got in the first place, there is no doubt that he will win Comeback Player of the Year, because so is a fucking quarterback if a quarterback's injured. No one else gets any bloody love.
Yeah.
Who else have we got in the reckoning for there? JJ Watt.
JJ Watt, yeah. I can see why people would want to give him that.
Because he's a super nice guy and we all love him.
Yeah, but actually statistically he's right in the mix at the top. He is going to be second or third. Khalil Mack, I think there seems to be 2. It seems to be Donald and Mack up until, certainly through the first 4 games, it was like, no question, it was those 2. I threw out some numbers in one episode saying, well actually, Myles Garrett and JJ Watt statistically is doing better than the big 2 you'd expect. That's slowly sorting itself out. But those,
although Mack isn't because he's struggling with injury.
Yeah, they've had their bye week. He's been out 1 game injured. But if it could be the sensible thing. You give him a week off, let him recharge, and then boom, he just knocks out of the park for the remainder of the season, because he totally lifted that defense in the first couple of games.
Yeah, he did.
It was something else to see. Fumble, sacks. He was throwing himself all over the place. It was amazing. So the top of the order slowly sorting himself out. It looks like Donald's going to rise right up to the top, make it a bit of a no-brainer for Defensive Player of the Year. But he's got a bit of competition, which is nice. JJ Watt's right up in the mix, which is where we were going with that one.
Yeah.
And because he's been so injured, not just last 2 seasons really, he's kind of struggled with this, that, and the next thing. He's back and he busted his leg, and he only played 3 games 2 seasons ago or whatever.
Sounds like you.
Yeah.
I can't know. Maybe that's why I love him so much. Oh my guy. I mean, he's got the same injury record and everything.
Okay, so I think we've covered quite a lot there in the defensive side of the ball. So let's move on.
Disappointing players? Anyone disappointed you?
No, everyone's been great.
And let's shelve that now. We can come back to that, because there's a lot of numbers that I've had in front of me. Like, I mean, random things like Cameron Wake's only had 11 tackles and a sack. And you're thinking, really? You should have done better than that by now. And anyway, but yeah, we'll come back to that another time.
Okay, so I think that was the last Wembley game for the season. There
we have, just the 3 this year.
Just the 3.
4 next year.
And the announcement that they're back up to 4 next year, 2 at Wembley, 2 at Tottenham.
I think,
If the stadium's ready.
yeah. I read a thing that was saying that they're only having 4 so that Tottenham can recoup the money they lost from not having a game this year.
I thought their plan all along was to have
the
4.
That's what
Because
it's.
they had 4 last year as well.
But then it dropped down to 3 because there wasn't as much of a demand.
The Twickenham deal, when it was in for the last 2 seasons, had a flexible option. In theory, if they wanted to, they could have actually upped it to 5 games last season, because the Twickenham deal allowed them to flex up to 3 games at Twickenham if they needed. They'd obviously chosen not to do that, and kept it at 4 last year. I don't know why they went down to 3 this year. That's the only question. They've just come back. Next year, they've just come back to normal.
I thought I'd read somewhere that it was just because of the unknown of Tottenham Stadium, and they wanted to give it one as a trial run. And well, I mean, so
they didn't sell out every game when they had 4. Whereas this year, every game sold out.
Tottenham's smaller than Twickenham. The 3 sellout games at Wembley at 90,000 stadium. I think the new Spurs stadium is about 68,000 or something like that. So it's a smaller stadium, so they don't have to sell as much to sell out.
No, but I'm saying that's why I think they went from 4 to 3. Because the year when
but
done
for going back to 4,
when
it's a smaller stadium, they're not having to sell as
many
many tickets to sell out. There's also going to be that novelty factor.
Yeah,
Wembley will sell out because it's Wembley, and the first 2 games at Spurs are going to sell out because it's the first 2 games at Spurs, and
they've got that new pitch.
They've got their
the pitch.
Cool, it's an actual proper
NFL
plastic pitch.
Yeah. With the rubber beads in it. And
the
ones that you see every time as a tackle and someone gets up in their arms.
Oh my god.
Speckled.
Playing football,
would just,
the worst.
It's horrible.
You slide and you rip your leg open.
Yeah.
You spend about 3 weeks picking freaking black beads out your trainers.
I know. So let's just quickly go, who would be the teams that we would like to see next year?
Well, I didn't do what I like to see, but what I've done is a couple of thoughts on who I think will be.
So we've got 3 teams that haven't been to London before.
Yeah, let's start with that. So they are
the Packers,
the
Panthers, and the Texans.
Bingo. Right. So we've got 3 that have not made the trip over to London.
At least one of them is going to be in London next year, if not 2 or 3.
Texans have done an international game. They've got an away team in Mexico once. So they're the unknown. They have actually at least done an international series game. Packers and Panthers have not yet. So I think you get one of them, no questions asked. Because they want to get through all 32.
If the Packers are here next year, you're going to London.
Oh my god, 100%.
You will get arrested sitting in the stand doing this while Aaron Rodgers is on the field.
Well, just
we'll
as well we've not got a camera.
you don't need much of imagination to know what Gav is up to right
I
now.
will just miss that.
So you've got one of them. What you've got is Jags are obviously hosting.
Yep.
They've still got a deal going. We know that's going to happen. I reckon Oakland are hosting because they are homeless next season.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
The Chargers are obligated to host another game, although whether they maybe go to Mexico because they hosted in London this year.
Which is maybe then why I thought maybe the Rams might come over and host.
One of those two will definitely be either Mexico or here.
Well, the Rams have done Mexico this year. I presume are the Rams still obligated to host another one? Is that
I think so. I think this will be the last year that they.
I'm not sure.
So you would expect the Rams to be back in London next year, and someone else would host.
So we've got the Rams.
It might be the Raiders back in Mexico.
Yeah,
could be. Yeah,
Rams, Raiders.
I reckon Tampa host. We talked about that this morning. So
those that have a Super Bowl are now obligated to give up a home game at some point.
Yes.
So you've got Tampa. Have Atlanta done theirs?
They were
did Atlanta? They might have been I think they might have been the last one that didn't have to as part of it.
Okay, going forward.
So going forward, we've got the Cardinals have got one, so they'll have to give up a home game at some point as well.
Yeah. Tampa haven't been over here since 2011 as well, so that was another reason why I thought they were pretty much going to be a shoe-in. Those 2 reasons combined. Other teams who haven't been here for a while, we've not had the Broncos since 2010. If we get Oakland, they could make it a divisional. It kind of checks that box.
Do you think they would do a divisional game?
They have done before. We've had divisionals.
There was one divisional this
couple of years ago.
And who was the divisional game this year? I'm sure
Tennessee Jags.
Yeah.
So it was.
Last year it was the Cardinals and Rams.
Tennessee played Chargers.
Oh yes, so it was. Sorry,
we've not this season, but we'll get it. We can double check. They have.
The Cardinals and the Rams was a divisional game last year.
Yeah, so it was.
Oh, that's right. That was 40-0. I
don't think it was quite as bad as that. It was 30 something.
I'm sure it was Bills
versus Miami. Depressing as fuck.
It wasn't quite as bad. It was 30-something.
Wasn't quite 40.
I want to say the first one was something like Bills Miami or Bills Jets or something kind of not an obvious one you would think, but actually it was divisional and we got that. So they have done it. Bears haven't been over since 2011. 49ers and Steelers haven't been over since 2013. So that was other teams that I thought would probably be right in the mix to being told in the nicest possible way. It's about time you did a trip, folks.
I would love it to be the Packers. Imagine the Packers and Redskins played each other. I'd kill myself after it. I wouldn't need anything else in life.
The Packers fan base in the UK, I think, is really strong as well. I think if Patriots are the...
It's quite strong in LA this weekend as well.
Oh, Jesus, 75% of that stadium, I think, was in Packers gear. The Rams are not really playing at home this year. It seems to be every team is.
Yeah.
Jesus. Or it was the Chargers. Sorry, Chargers game, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, that was the Rams.
It was the Rams game.
It was the Rams at the Coliseum.
But I think it's been a bone of contention for the Chargers as well.
Yeah, because they've got no
fact that
fans.
Away fans seem to be
got no
packing
fans.
the
They've got no ground.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my thoughts on the London game. So I'm glad it's gone back to 4 next season.
Okay, let's do just quickly one team you'd really like to see, because you'll maybe get a free pass. You won't get a free pass.
We did it.
Rams, yeah, let's go Rams. Yeah,
Rams, Andrew.
Well, the Rams have been here so many times. That's just a bit boring, I think.
not many times the Patriots. We've had the Patriots. I don't want to see them. They've been over 3 times.
Nobody wants to see the Patriots.
Yeah. I want to see the Packers as well, I think, because I can't afford to go next year, so I want the Packers to come the year after.
so you're rooting for the Panthers to be the team this season.
I would love it to be.
What if the Texans come over? We'll go see JJ Watt just to get a sense of the scale of how big he is. I reckon he couldn't fit through that door. I think he's anyway. Doesn't matter.
Stop referencing physical things.
Stuff that you can't
it's
see.
a podcast.
Sound only,
Using
Steve.
your imagination, folks.
That door's 3 foot high. We'll have to crawl through it as well.
Except Steve, because he's a midget. I just stroll on in, going happy.
Oh.
Hey guys, how's things up in the land of tall people?
Okay.
Not calling this episode Steve the Dwarf. Thanks very much.
Dwarf Wrath.
Dwarf Wrath. The angry dwarf. I am the Dwarf Wrath.
Small House Wrath.
Sorry. Anyway, no. That could have been a really dodgy line. Just enough of that. Enough.
To someone
We've
who
lost Andrew.
Yeah.
Just keep on. We'll let him crack on the back.
To someone who's definitely not feeling tall anymore, Hugh Jackson lost his job.
Oh, he wasn't tall anyway. I think he's shorter than me. Hugh Jackson got the punt. I'd say actually quite surprising.
Yeah, I was
the
going to say
timing. He was on a sticky wicket as it was coming into the season, obviously because the last 2 years have been utter hell. Surprised they gave him 1 more year, and I figured he had to have at least 8 wins to probably secure his job.
And also, the Browns, if you looked at it from a performance perspective, not a record perspective, they've been competitive in every game.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. That's why he's lost his job for me. Because they've been competitive, but there's something missing there. They just don't have a ruthlessness to close out those games.
Yeah.
How many times have they been to overtime?
4 times, I think, in 8 of the game. I mean, they're probably setting some records right there. I don't know if teams have been in that often.
And how many of those games
it's all been
have they
fight
had?
backs though in the 4th quarter to get them to overtime.
Yeah.
So they've shown enough, but they just haven't got through that final bit.
How many times have they had the chance to win those games?
Yeah.
I mean, they could have another 3 wins on their total.
Yeah, they could be sitting here 5-2-1 or
The
6-2.
Saints game's the
worst
one
case
that really
scenario.
sticks out. The one against the Saints, that sticks out a lot.
Well, the tied game against the Steelers as well. I mean, they had the chance to win that.
Chances, yeah. You could argue so did the Steelers, but yeah.
Yeah, but the Browns had the chance first, didn't they? And then the Steelers messed up after.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just feel that they're missing that ruthlessness, and I think Dorsey's probably sitting there
Gone, fuck this.
Well, he's going and looking at it and thinking, I've given you the pieces now.
Yeah.
And
GMs always want their guy, and obviously Dorsey was brought in after Jackson was in place and kept him around, but you're on a very short leach.
I think slightly different. I don't think it was the result there that cost him it. I think it was the fallout with Todd Haley.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think that was the
Haley's
moment.
been punted as well.
Yeah, I think
he ended up cutting both of them, which
I think what they've
just as interesting.
I think that's a message to future people with the Browns, because they are a bit of a laughing stock. Probably not as bad now as it has been the last few years, but they're still a bit of a laughing stock. So I think that's Dorsey going, I'm not accepting this shit anymore.
Yeah,
I think that's him saying
you two are bickering and aren't getting along. Bye bye, both of you.
Yeah,
I need people that come in and actually fight for this organisation.
Yeah,
I don't
not with
want
each
any,
other.
any off-field distractions of any sort. Get rid of them. That's maybe why the Josh Gordon got traded away eventually.
Yeah.
I bet he gave him a chance. He probably thought maybe we need to. And they had this unauthorised absence or whatever.
Yeah.
And didn't turn out it wasn't drugs, even though that's what everyone else thought. Oh, he's about to go and get suspended again or whatever. And then it was just like, nah, ship him away. Doesn't matter what we get for him.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Go to the Patriots.
Yeah.
So yeah, no bye bye Browns, eh?
Yep. So I just thought we'd just quickly speak about any candidates we thought that would be a good fit. I've got one.
Cool.
I've actually got three. Looks like I was the only one that was prepared. That was feedback.
You didn't tell us we need to think of bloody.
I told you what we were going to talk about. I was just assumed that you would be smart.
I'm a rookie. I don't have the in-depth knowledge
You can
required.
have that, Steve. I expect better from you in your small house. Okay, so the first one that I've gone for John Dorsey as a potential replacement for the Browns is, I'm not sure how you pronounce his surname, Dave Taub, who is the assistant head coach at the Chiefs and is also their special teams coach. 2 years ago, he interviewed for the Chargers and the Broncos head coaching role. He'll obviously be a John Dorsey guy if he's at the Chiefs. He'll be working with Andy Reid. So I think there's a lot of ticks in there.
Makes a lot of sense.
And special teams, it doesn't get spoken about a lot, but people value that so highly.
More often than not, special teams is where the game's won and
Yeah,
lost.
exactly. And that's where, actually, if you look at the Browns, how many times
See
did
Ty
they...
Montgomery.
Yeah, we'll speak about him later. We'll speak about him later. But yeah, if you look at the Browns this year, how many games would they have won if their special teams were on point?
Well, we said earlier they could be sitting here on 5 or 6 wins, easy.
So yeah, I think.
Well, yeah, that was easy. Yes.
When I looked at that, I thought that makes a whole load of sense. Like it takes the John Dorsey gets a guy he knows what to expect from him, a guy that's worked with Andy Reid, who's a really well thought of coach, a guy that's works in an area that the Browns need to improve upon. So yeah, it made a lot of sense for me, that one. The next one I had was John DeFilippo, who is the Vikings offensive coordinator. He was actually with the Browns in 2015, so he knows the organisation, but he's sort of rose to fame for the work he done with Carson Wentz at the Eagles. That's what got him the Vikings OC job. So when you've got someone like Baker Mayfield, do you want someone that can get the best out of him?
Yeah.
So that was one that I thought was a potential. And finally, the one that it's almost pretty much been ruled out by a lot of different people was Mayfield's coach from college, a guy called Lincoln Riley. But they're saying that the guys at colleges get paid so much money that they would just, that's why they go there. They don't come to the NFL because they get paid shitloads in college. So
what about our interim head coach?
I want it to be Greg Williams, but I just can't see it. Yeah, I just can't see it because
The risk of spiraling the podcast way off control, but we'll keep it really short. Is he tainted too much from his problem that actually the NFL as an organisation probably couldn't ever let him coach a team as a head coach?
Yeah,
they'll get away with him being a defensive coordinator, but that is the peak he's going to get to in his career.
As soon as there's something that happens that's controversial, that's relating to an injury or something like that,
people are going to be asking. I mean, not asking questions as such, but I just, you know what I mean?
It's difficult press that they don't need.
Yeah.
So this is referring back to the whole Bountygate.
Peter. Yeah, so going back, so Bountygate was the problem. Yeah, he was given spot bonuses to players in the New Orleans defence that were going out and injuring certain people on the opposing teams. He got his knuckles wrapped big time, had served a year out.
Yeah.
Peyton was about half season, he was a full year out. Came back and worked his way through Rams
Rams.
before he ended up at the Browns. So he's back doing what he had, but there's people are going to be watching him like a hawk. Make sure he's not repeating any of that nonsense from before.
I think he does deserve to stay in that position, at least as defensive coordinator for the Browns, because they do look good on the defensive side. It has been their offense hasn't been able to stay firing. That's been their issue.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts on the Browns? The other one I seen was Mike McCarthy, but I don't think that'll happen.
What, going from Green Bay?
Yeah, I think it was to do with his connection to John Dorsey, but I don't see that happening. Definitely not mid-season anyway.
Yeah, no, not mid-season. Yeah, they'll do nothing now until. But what it gives them the jump on is to interview people at the very beginning of.
Yeah.
So, do you think Williams will ride out the season as interim head coach?
Yeah. Keep him in place until. No, because I think it almost doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
I think they've made the change now, and now they've almost. My head says they've almost succumbed to, okay, if they get a bounce for a couple of wins, great. That's kind of where they would have wanted to be at the beginning of the season.
I suppose it's the opportunity here for Williams to
state his case.
Yeah, to say, well, if they come back and they do end up 8-8, say.
He's awesome to listen to. When I watched the Rams All or Nothing, he was one of my favourites, and he's so aggressive.
Yeah, it was also very easy to sound awesome when you're next to Jeff Fisher.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. The blandest man in the world.
No, wait, no.
He was just thrown out
because it was Halloween yesterday and people were dressing up as none other than Jason Garrett.
Yeah, that's true.
Is Garrett worse than Fisher?
Yes.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, we'll table that conversation for another time. But just to throw out there, he's poison, but he ain't the worst.
Okay.
Right. Anyway, where have we got there? Way off topic.
Just covered the Browns. A couple of guys there that would make sense for them. So I look forward to seeing what happens there, and hopefully they can find their guy.
Seeing as they seem to have the pieces now, certainly in the defense, and if Baker is the guy that they finally haven't had, they need the head coach to be one that will take you and get you wins.
Yeah, and they're going to end up with a good draft haul again.
Is Chubb their running game answer?
He's had a couple of good games. I
Seems
think
alright.
So. I think it's their offensive line actually that they're getting a lot of stick for. I think.
You could address that.
Why can I not think of that person, their centre that retired because he was injured? Maybe he didn't retire.
Alex Mack.
Joe Thomas.
Oh, he's tackled. Yeah. Aye, so he could have maybe had one more year.
Yeah, so he.
But you make your own decision when you're that good. You go out whenever you want.
Yeah. So he
went out right on the top.
He went out, and don't think they really replaced him.
Not quite. No.
So that's probably something that they'll look at. But anyway, okay. So moving on to it was trade weekend in the NFL. Before we get into the specific trades, I was listening to a video. I can't remember the name of the reporter from the NFL, but it was someone who's actually saying it's the only thing that's actually missing from the NFL. Because in baseball, basketball, soccer, the deadline day is a huge event.
Yeah.
But in the NFL, it's almost just another day. There's not that many moves. It's the only thing that they think is missing from a media standpoint, that it doesn't have that big hype.
That sort of big frenzy. Yeah.
Whereas in football, you get hundreds of millions of pounds spent on deadline day, and people going all over the country reporting. And you don't really get that in the NFL. You get
Jim White. What colour tie is he going to be wearing?
Yellow.
It's always yellow.
So I thought we'd just talk through a couple of trades, and me being extremely selfish and a bit of a dick, I'm going to talk about Clinton dicks because I feel like it was relevant. So what's your thoughts on the trade of dicks from the Packers to the Redskins, who gave up?
You're obsessed with dicks today.
I'm obsessed with dicks every day.
Whoa.
I regret saying that instantly.
Oh dear.
I could feel in my face, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
And the brain goes, nah, say it.
Shit. So the Redskins gave up a 4th round pick for Clinton Dix.
I think the Redskins win that trade just. The only reason why I don't, it's not a shoo-in that I think they win the trade, is that he was going to hit free agency anyway. The Packers were losing him no matter what, so they at least get something for him. And a 4th rounder is not too bad value wise.
And you've got to back that you can agree a deal with him.
We've got plenty of cap room. I think we'll be
Yeah,
if he
it could be
performs.
happens,
I don't think that'd be an issue.
And that gives you a real solid 1-2 punch in the back end of your defence.
I
as well.
literally think we've smashed this trade out of the park. Fourth rounder, I can't think of too many the best cornerbacks and people in the secondary position tend to be people in the first or second round. Clinton Dix was a first rounder a couple of years ago. We gave up a fourth round. He's sitting on 3 interceptions for the year. He's in the top 5 or 6 for interceptions. Put him in there with DJ Swearinger. Love it. And we're outperforming to what we should be this year. We're on 5-2.
Yep.
So yeah, I think adding him in shores up that bit, which has been a weak spot for us. But the one
could
thing,
well be 6-2 actually. You're facing Atlanta this week, so
Yeah.
it's a
At
shite
home as
defence
well.
to be up against. Way.
at home, yeah. So
Result.
yeah, I think that we've definitely nailed that one.
That'll be AP getting to his 110 touchdowns just in that game.
The one thing that I put slightly separately on this move, taking in Clinton Dix, I think I've said it a couple of times now. I think that spells the end for Josh Norman. I think he will be a cap casualty at the end of this year.
You use that money to re-up Clinton Dix. It's a good shout. Actually.
500,000 people because he got paid a shitload of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that trade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Redskins win it. So another trade that happened in the NFC East, Golden Tate went from the Eagles to the Lions for a third rounder.
Other way around, but yep.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
From Lions to the Eagles.
Lions to the Eagles, yeah.
It seems good value.
You think?
I think the Eagles have stolen him, really. I think he was worth more than that to...
I'm going to flip it.
Oh, are you? Oh, you think they paid too much for him?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
31-year-old due $9 million next year. Not for me. Not when you've already got Alshon Jeffrey, you've got Nelson Aguilar, you've got Zach Ertz. Not for me. I don't think it's... I think you probably could get a wide receiver in the draft, or you could get someone younger and cheaper than you're going to get Golden Tate. $9 million for a 31-year-old doesn't float my boat.
Yeah,
When
but I
it's-
think though the numbers have moved. With the cap going up so quickly over the last 3-4 years, 9 million now is not a lot compared to what it was 3 seasons ago. I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying.
I think it's more also his age, and I just don't. He's not. He's like a possession receiver, like a Jarvis Landry receiver. He's not going to take the top off anyone, so he's doing the same thing as Alshon Jeffrey sort of does.
He's solid hands. They are literally picking him up just for the end of this season to try and right the offensive ship, which has a small one, but a question at wide receiver. They think they can bring him in just to jumpstart that. Helps Wentz out, helps their offense out.
So
they get a couple more wins, sneak into the playoff job.
A couple other things, not just. So sticking with the cap thing, the Eagles are one of the worst teams in cap space as of next year. They are having to lose big people next year. They can't afford. They're overspending next year if they keep everyone. And the cap, as you mentioned, has gone up. So they will definitely lose some good people. But I thought they had to try and address their run game. That was their bigger issues than their pass catchers. So that's where I thought the Lions actually getting a third rounder when they've got Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones probably could got. They're not expected to win anything this year, so actually for them getting a third rounder, I think that's probably more benefit to them than Golden Tate will be for the.
Kerry and Johnson looks like the answer.
Yeah.
So
actually, I think
okay.
that was my argument.
No, with you, no.
Demaryius Thomas to the Texans.
I think the Texans stole him. I know what you mean though, but you're probably going to argue the same way as to what it was only a fourth rounder though, which isn't as
fourth, and they swapped 7th round positions or something, which doesn't really mean anything. But
I'll give you 2 Skittles, you give me 3 fucking Maltesers.
Yeah,
what does it matter?
I'd rather
7 round.
Maltesers every time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like whatever.
Bad analogy, Steve.
Hell yeah, full of them every week.
Andrew, what do you think? Texans or the Broncos? Who do you think that fourth rounder means more to?
I don't know. I'm kind of right in the middle of this one. I think it's
just put it as a score
about
draw,
fair.
yeah. Well, I'm thinking, right, they lost Fuller, which was a bit of a blow because Texans are on a 5-game winning streak. They're head in front in their own division. They look like they're going to hit the playoffs. You want to kind of keep that run going. The offensive line finally protected Watson for 1 week and he took no sacks, albeit he's still the most hit quarterback in the league. Whether that's because you had Hopkins and Fuller doing what they can on the outside. You need to get someone to replace Fuller because the drop off, because Kiki Kuti plays through the slot and he's injured anyway. The drop off was too severe, so they've managed to. He's not a speed guy. He's not going to actually blow the top off a defence, but he's really.
He'll command attention.
Yeah, him on one side and Hopkins on the other. The defence is really going to have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't think the Texans won this one. I like that we argue though. I like that we can debate.
It's not argue. It's a debate. Yeah.
Demaryius Thomas also going to be 31, 14 million next year, and another team that doesn't have a great amount of cap space. And the reason that I actually don't like this the most is because Fuller took the top off, as you said. Thomas doesn't. How do you make defences stay honest in the sense of we have a deep threat? I know Hopkins can do it, and I know Thomas can do it if the route and all that stuff works, or defences blow coverages. But it's not the same as Will Fuller. It's
not blazing speed.
No, it's not. Like
I know what you mean.
You're never going to get a like for like for Will Fuller now, though, were you?
No, but there's Deshaun Jackson
not
said that
traded for like Tyreek Hill.
Deshaun Jackson said that he wanted to be traded.
Right enough, yeah. Actually,
so
he
if
would have
I'm
been
the Texans,
the fit.
If I'm the Texans, I go, you know,
him.
I'd rather give up a little bit more. And Jackson is roughly the same age as Thomas and Tate, but he would have been cheaper. And he would have offered you different to both those receivers. So I would have rather, if I was the Texans, that's the move that works for me.
I like it.
Okay, and the big one that happened, Deontay Fowler. I didn't write down what it was it a second round?
So it was
a fifth round?
No, not quite. A third round for next year and a fifth round for 2020.
So Fowler from the Jags to the Rams.
Originally I was like, oh my God.
Just is this them jumping the gun or just slightly jumping ahead and getting a replacement for Sue?
No, Sue's a nose tackle.
Yeah,
different possession, but I get where you're going with
Yeah. So because they're not going to have Sue past this year, so they're all in on winning it all now, which is fair enough. If you've got the way that team is built, your offense and defense is set in such a way that you've got that. You've got the quarterback still on a rookie deal that's cheap, which allows you to pad out the rest of your squad with decent priced vets, and you don't have to cut your nose off when your quarterback gets re-upped. You then have to start depleting other areas of your team and whatnot. I don't know where I was going with that now. Talk myself in it. Oh yeah, so they're getting him in the 1 year flyer for the 20 million quid. He ain't getting the 20 million quid next year. Bye bye. He'll go somewhere else. Fowler still comes in on his rookie deal.
Last year,
week 4, year 4. I think he's in, isn't he?
So it'll be his option year.
2015. Yeah, 2015 was when he got drafted.
Yeah, that was the first draft that I watched. Stayed up and watched.
Aye. It's 2016-17. This is 18 season. Yeah, doing his option deal next year. I was kind of in two minds whether this was a draw or whether one team has won or not. Actually, you could probably argue the Jags have won it, really, because he wasn't in the rotation anyway. To a huge extent, he's only had 14 sacks in his career. He's only had 2 this season. He was probably on his way out anyway.
Yeah,
Yannick Ngui is clearly better than him in terms of how the Jags feel about him. So they've managed to get 2 picks out of him.
Yeah,
one being a third rounder.
He was a first rounder, wasn't he?
He was a first rounder. Yeah, he was third overall. Bust.
Yeah.
But then bust his knee.
Yeah, he got bad injuries. But then, so what it tells me is the Rams are going, right, fuck it, we're winning this season. We're winning this. They've gone, let's...
A lot of analysts, and this isn't me because I haven't watched enough of the Rams games to know this, but a lot of analysts were saying that they're good everywhere except their outside pass rush. That is the one inverted commas. Their internal pass rush, so Donald and Sue in the middle, blows it up all the time, which is fine. They don't have people coming off the edge to stop teams from doing one of those like drop off.
Yeah, dunks and
run.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You're talking about a Kamara type run against you, or what type
screenplay.
Do screenplay. That's the one. Yeah, thanks. The rookie nails it. The old bastard forgets. Joys of being old. Anyway, you know where I was going with that.
So you saying that one's a draw, Andrew? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the same. Call it a draw.
I'm going to say the Rams win it, and the only reason I'm saying they win it is because they're going to win everything this year, and I think that just adds to that.
Did the Rams win, or does Fowler win? By getting traded to a team.
Fowler wins. Fowler's the winner.
He's sitting there going, "Yeah, I got my ring. Woo!"
You can't.
I was a third overall pick. I've basically my career up through various reasons, whether my fault or not. He got suspended for team violations and
Yes,
stuff
he
as well,
did.
though. I think that's the other thing I was reading. Yeah, so he's not only... So he's fallen out of favour with the management in the Jags building, which is the other problem, and part of the reason why he was on the way out this off-season regardless. So at least he gets a chance to go to a different team, different organisation, prove himself, whether the Rams keep him and re-up him, or whether he hits free agency anyway.
Yeah.
He's going to get a fresh start no matter what.
So yeah, I think I'm going to say the Rams have won it because that just, you can't cover Donald, you can't cover Sue, you can't cover Brockers. Now you can't cover Fowler as well. You can't stop them all. So if they get him firing, they win the Super Bowl. Okay, so it's been a mishmash of nonsense where Steve has been really small. I've said that I love dicks. Andrew lost himself for a while.
He's lost himself, but now he's found himself. He's back from the wilderness.
I'd like to give a quick thank you to all these fine people that support us in different ways, whether it's people in our group chats, people on the internet, people that are in the
Yeah, nice bit of Twitter interaction this week, everyone. Thanks very much. It was much appreciated.
and the nice guys in the Britpod scene.
Britpod scene, Fair City
Fair Pack
Podcast
Fair Pack
Network.
Yeah, so all these nice
This
people.
sounds like a frickin' award acceptance speech if we thank anyone else.
Um,
We ain't getting any of them.
Steven Spielberg.
My mum.
Anyway,
Thanks for
on
listening.
that note,
Bye.
You've been listening to another great podcast from the Fair City Podcast Network, a group dedicated to connecting and developing podcasts. Check out fcpod.net for more great podcasts and content.